So,
yeah.
yes, we've renamed this to Drac's Ripper Doc table because we are the entire class.
Yeah.
Not even I mean, it's mostly you, but it's kind of yeah. This whole class,
And
the whole gunslinger class.
calling it a Ripper Doc table is fitting too, because much like when you get yourself all nice and chromed up, you're just taking what's there and you're just making it better, but you're making it different, and it needs to be different. It needs to be very, 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 very different.
It does. Okay, we've talked about this before, but for the sake of people who are, jumping in at the words Ripper Doc table, Gunslinger, the class, honest to God, hate it. And not because of what it does, but what it fails to do, really. And it's weapon of choice, it's its cornerstone feature, it sucks. Hate it. And that's kind of the whole class. The fact that the weaponsmithing expertise only shows up until 11th level. We get a lot of memes on the server about Sunsingers being better weaponsmiths than the Gunslingers, because they can, technically at 3rd level with their Patron of the Arts, they can pick weaponsmithing toolkit, because it's a list of skills or a toolkit. That sucks. That doesn't fit into the fantasy of Gunslinger. And then while we have really strong archetypes, we have the sharpshooter, the outlaw, the showman, like those are your gunslingers. The class just sucks. There isn't substance here. There's a ton of ideas here, and there's no... Yeah. Everything that makes your character is coming from your archetype, not from your class.
Right, and furthermore, even on that point, it has led to the primary identity of the gunslinger effectively being, for the most part, how much damage it can do, which is not characterful, and is not the direction that we're trying to go for in counterbalance and design. Right, that's the other facet of you, being the DPS is fun, big number, go burr, but at the same time, it doesn't mean you're actually doing any cool stuff. You're just doing a lot of damage, and that's not what we'd really like. That's not a healthy design space, or a play space.
Yeah.
Realistically, so that's mainly what's been on the cutting room floor right now, has been trying to iterate on how the gunslinger fights, right? And provide some of that into the base class, and then use the archetypes as a progression or a nuanced expression of how a core gunslinger fights. Yeah.
And I just gotta say, I get it. I get it. Players, I get it that you're really upset that you don't get your triple attack on 2E Gunslinger. But I am desperately trying to make this class appealing without having triple attack, because I kind of really don't want a class's entire identity to be able to be boiled down to, I get to attack 3 times. And now your super, if you pick the 6-shooter super, you do get the more attacks, because that's the superpower. That's when you're in your super, and that's when that should make sense. That's when that identity should come out. But we want to make this class appealing, even if you're not going to get, extra attack. And that's, right. I think that's one of the biggest things that's holding people back from trying to go to 2E Gunslinger, is that they're missing that, because there isn't anything else. That's it. Right. That's the class. It's the extra attack.
Yeah, and you can hardly fault folks for going oh, I just do, my core identity in 1E is I do a lot of damage. And in 2E, I do less damage. And there's nothing really else flavorful that I do. It's just everything is supposed to be a mechanism for me doing more damage. So if I'm not doing that, why would I transition over to 2E? And that's it's valid, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a ton of cool shit in 2E, right? You got the aspects, and all that stuff. But, a lot of those even build into very specific play styles, and at the end of the day, it's not damage. So How
Yeah.
else? What else? What else are you gonna fight with? Other than damage, and that's what we're trying to answer.
And Drac, you've only been on the dev team for a little bit, so you've only like encountered this a little bit, which is me being so upset about gunslingers all the time.
Yeah.
The class, not the players. The players a little bit in regards to pizzazz. Pizzazz has been a hot button topic ever since it was released. Scrolling all the way down here, it is the cornerstone feature of the showman, which is the basic idea is that if you make the ability check or weapon attack with disadvantage, you gain 1 point of pizzazz. You can then spend pizzazz to do a whole bunch of stuff. The default is 1 point. You might have to spend multiple points for doing different things. But the whole point of pizzazz is that, you're the showman. You're the Jackie Chan who's out there fighting with, a cast iron skillet and a bench, like a picnic table. That's the kind of fight Jackie Chan would have. You're playing that kind of rough and tumble character who's just making the best with what you have, which is you're doing a lot of disadvantage stuff, but you get the pizzazz that's supposed to, zhuzh it up a little bit. And ever since pizzazz came out, we've had basically two opinions in the community, which is number one, it sucks, remove it, I hate it, and number two, the entire class should get pizzazz. And I've very much disliked both of these opinions and having to deal with both of these simultaneously, because number one, not every gunslinger is Jackie Chan. It's your John Wick is not Jackie Chan, okay? Like, John Wick is a gunslinger. The point is, not every gunslinger is, that caricature, really.
Yeah.
And
it's not Way of the Drunken Fist gun fu, right?
Yeah, it's not, yeah. And so the whole class shouldn't get pizzazz, but the people who like pizzazz, they feel like they can't. I mean, the two whole people who like pizzazz, because don't get me wrong, we haven't really had good feedback on this since it came out. I think a lot of people look at the disadvantage thing and they get cold feet and they don't like doing it.
Right, and it's one of those things of where in the standpoint of where it's like, what, you want me to disadvantage myself so I can do better in other circumstances, and one. It's Way of the Drunken Fist. That's kind of what you're supposed to do. But also at the same time, your enemy also puts you at disadvantage quite frequently, right? Wizard drops smoke, you're shooting at disadvantage. So at the very least, you're going to get something for it. So that way you can overcome that or redirect that somewhere else. That's kind of the idea.
It's the idea, and the player base hasn't really latched onto it. Like I said, we've gotten maybe two whole people who like pizzazz, and usually it's the people who they actually play with it and they're like, never mind, this is fun.
Right, but I see how this works.
And we want to get people to the point where they are doing that. But we have a bigger problem, which is that the whole class isn't really interesting to play in 2E, just the whole class. So Drac, we were talking. We're just gonna redo the entire class from the ground up.
More or less, yeah.
And you've been brainstorming ideas about this, and we briefly talked about it a little bit, but it was like, where are you currently at with your idea for how to redo this entire class?
So a lot of it starts at the cornerstone, right? Which makes sense, because that's like the foundation of the class. This is going to be the thing that you see first as a level 1 player, as a new person to D&Dest, looking at Gunslinger, which I think is a lot of people's initial touchstone in Destiny, because, a lot of us saw that D1 ad material and we're like, oh, the Gunslinger looks so cool. And they're very cool. That's my one Hunter comment for the year. Enjoy it. Or compliment for the year. So savor it. Real talk. The cornerstone needs to change. We've had two ideas. We've either or at least in my mind, there's been two channels on this going forward. Weapon of choice, and this is some feedback that we've gotten from the community as well, is while it says weapon of choice, it is inherently a limiting mechanic. You are marrying yourself to one gun, and it does lean into that fantasy of this is my rifle, this is my gun. There are many like it, but this one is mine, right? Like the gunslinger running around with no time to explain is going to be just a little bit better than some other guardian running around, non-gunslinger guardian running around with their no time to explain. But you are also marrying yourself to that gun, and a lot of your features. Now we've disabled a lot of the because it used to be right. You could only cast your super on your weapon of choice, and we've removed that limitation. But a lot of your mechanics, especially like sharpshooter, if I recall correctly, sharpshooter is very dependent on using their weapon of choice, which is inherently limiting because we're playing Destiny. We're playing the gun game where you have to have a gun for every situation, right? And when you have a ghost with memory that can hold, a ton of guns, and you can have like 4 guns on your person, there's basically looking at one character and going, you are going to be married to one gun, even though it says weapon of choice. Very limiting. So there is an idea to turn this into an arsenal that develops with you. So still kind of keep it a little bit similar, make it a little bit easier to like add and drop things to your arsenal, right? And that basically something akin to equal to your proficiency bonus. You have weapons that you add to your arsenal, and those can key off of your features. But then we're running right back into that was actually my favorite idea for a while. But then I realized that we're kind of just running back into the same rut and trenches that we were in before, which is interacting with these mechanics that aren't engaging to the player base, which actually does lead to grabbing pizzazz by the clay that makes it pizzazz and fundamentally reshaping it and changing it and bolting that onto, or not bolting that onto, but making that the cornerstone. And for all the pizzazz haters out there, I hear you, I see you, I can already hear and see you. But bear with me. One of the things that we're looking at doing as well is an acknowledgement that disadvantage for pizzazz is not the most active of engines that you could be utilizing to generate your points, right? Again, you will roll at disadvantage. Look, your GMs are supposed to be putting you into positions where you're getting disadvantage sometimes. That's the enemies playing tactically, right? Wizard drops smoke, you get knocked prone, all of this stuff, right? You get restrained, burned, whatever.
The other half of the table exists. It's not just
the enemy gets a vote, and the enemy is sure voting that you're going to be at a disadvantage for most of the stuff that you do, if they can help it. But at the same time, there are other parts of the gunslinger, and if we're moving this to the core gunslinger identity, one, moving it from pizzazz to something like tenacity or grit or some other more ubiquitous gunslinger terminology or ideal, right? And providing more engines to generate it, if also not just starting with some in the tank to begin with. Not much, probably equal to your power level. That's where I'm at right now. But effectively, we just, we just cut out weapon of choice. Weapon of choice is no more. It's not about being good at one weapon. It's about being good at fighting with guns and fighting with your weapons. So we just replaced weapon of choice with something like, I don't know, tenacious fighting. And the idea here is effectively that, you'll start. You'll start with, we'll call it tenacity for now, equal to your PL. It didn't do its cute little thing. There we go. And you'll start with tenacity equal to your PL. You generate tenacity, and we're these are spicy, almost like battle master maneuvers is almost the vibe that we're going for here. Generally speaking. So one of the main problems that you see when feedback with that is those mechanisms are so limited, right? The point is that you don't get to play with those very much. And that's kind of the problem with Pizzazz. Pizzazz gives you a lot of great, cool, very engaging ways to interact with the battlefield. It's just the mechanism to get there isn't the most, perhaps intuitive, or consistent even. Depending on the enemy you're fighting, you might not be rolling at disadvantage very much, which means you have to like blind yourself or shoot from prone, which I think is cool, but is also a mechanical disadvantage. the idea is that maybe you could generate tenacity in a number of ways, right? Rolling with disadvantage, I think, should be one. And I think that actually kind of fits the core identity of Gunslinger a little bit more. If we remove it from the idea of it's gun fu, and more of the idea of what is ubiquitous a lot of these Gunslinger characters is they don't give up even in the face of insurmountable odds, right? Your outlaws are grizzled veterans that, just keep taking the punches and keep moving. Your sharpshooters make these highly improbable shots and they hit them anyway. And then, of course, your showmen, they're the ones who are out there, combat rolling all over the place,
yeah, they're slip sliding and they're jumping around and they're doing hoop shots with their guns.
Exactly. So, but we wanna roll. At least I would like to try rolling in a number of ways to generate tenacity. So generating tenacity by rolling with disadvantage. I think for one, casting a power, right? Yeah, so casting one of your powers, right? And then we were gonna borrow on points effect. It was when you really hit really well. So the idea of not just crits. We could, if it happens too consistently, we could just move it to crits. But I do think that if you just exceed a target's AC by 4 or more, you generate a tenacity. So that way, one of the other ways that a gunslinger could focus on getting big number is on their hit bonus, right? They're good at shooting their guns. We want to reward them for effectively being too good at shooting their guns, right? So this is a lot of ways to generate tenacity. But part of this is to make sure that, you can be utilizing the, tenacious actions. We'll figure out a better word for it. But the idea there being that this is what empowers what you're doing when you're fighting. And these things shouldn't, replace attack rolls, because even if we want to steer away from the identity of, all I do is big damage, it is also important to acknowledge that reducing the enemies to 0 hit points is, in 90% of the encounters, the way that you beat the encounter, right? You have to defeat your enemies on the table in order to win, so anything that gets in the way of damage would need to be very impactful on changing the battlefield or bolstering your allies or something like that, right? If I can, if I'm giving up anything for damage, it's got to be good. So I think most of the time, I would like a lot of these to go in conjunction with attacks. And they're meant to be thank you. I don't know why. Who knows? In conjunction with thanks, Kit Kat, thanks. In conjunction with attacks. But the idea is that these are the flavorings of how you're fighting. Of how you are fighting. So, and on that note, I think there's going to be a few universal ones, universal options that just every gunslinger is going to be able to do.
Yeah, because this is the part that I really wanted to pick your brain about, which is okay, because if we have this whole system, we have this whole engine, what do you get to do with it, though? Because that's going to make or break whether or not this is going to be fun.
Right, absolutely. So, first of all, I really think, and this maybe could be too much, but I see it as the way that we have this is almost equivalent exchange. If we're asking the players to roll at disadvantage for an attack to generate a tenacity, I think a perfectly acceptable thing to do would be, 1 tenacity equals advantage on the roll. Right?
I think that actually is already something on the showman. Let me.
You might be right.
Work is safe when I find smooth moves. Do the wiggle. I thought it was on here. It might have been on here at one point.
And if that's too good, and the fact that they have other ways to generate tenacity, we could always bump that up to 2 tenacity. Okay. So we could do 1 or 2. Well, that makes a fraction. But 1 or 2 tenacity equals advantage on an attack roll. We could maybe even do an ability roll. But that's maybe a little crazy. But it could be cool, and it could be very interesting. And right, that I think even can lend to some narrative, right? Of like, if you're taking disadvantage, you're like taking disadvantage. You're like hip firing your hand cannon as you run towards a guy, and really you're just suppressing them as you then drop your shoulder and knock them to the ground with a trying to shove them prone or something like that. That could be interesting, and that's
yeah.
leaning into some ideas that I have for Outlaw.
So I guess my bigger question then is, before we get into all these individual actions, let's talk more about the general design philosophy behind these actions. Are they meant to be something similar to how the Stormcaller's arc actions work, where it's you have the number of arc charges and then you spend them to do things that either modify an action you were already taking or allow you to take a completely new action, like being able to spend the arc charges to do the grenade on an attack, I think is one of them.
Yeah, I think from the universal options available to Gunslinger, it's really going to be a lot more about modifying what you're doing already, which is going to be shooting your guns and fighting. Right. Now I do think that we can do a little bit more of that. Like, I actually really, really love. I'm a huge fan of the Shine Bright option for Showman. I think that's super awesome. The one that lets you spend pizzazz to cast more powers. But I don't think that should be something that is ubiquitously done. I think the design identity of these actions is meant to be in conjunction with the things that you're already doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do we feel? Okay, so if the system is you have a number of points and you spend the points while you're already taking other actions to do things, how do we feel about the idea of something similar to Night Stalker's focus actions, where it is its whole own other action that you get to do a specific thing?
So, the Night Stalker actions have been a great success. But one of the points of feedback that we've gotten from that, which is actually some of my favorite dissonant feedbacks that we've gotten, as in like there's a dissonance in the mechanics, is, hey, we have features that work off of the attack action and then these super cool focus actions, and I am never using the attack action because the focus actions are way cooler.
Right,
like,
yeah.
That means we have succeeded. We've gotten a 5e player or somebody playing in a 5e game to not take the attack action on their turn, and they love it, right? That's huge, right? And obviously, most of the time they're using an ability or doing what they would do with an action anyway, but they're doing it less, right? Like, especially if you're like an assassin Night Stalker, which is some of the feedback of like, we get extra attack, but none of our focus actions work off of extra attack. What do? I kind of want to keep focus actions in that form of like standard, mastery form, all of that. I want to keep that over to Night Stalker. I don't necessarily know if we I'm not as keen or as sold on the idea of making these their own as an action you do XYZ. Simply because I think it kind of occludes the power fantasy that the Gunslinger has, right? One of the things that makes John Wick an engaging fighter to watch is all the shit that he's doing while he is fighting with his gun. It's not, I'm gonna take a step back and grab a brick and throw it. It's while I'm gunfighting this guy, I do my flick reload, which distracts the second guy I wasn't able to engage. I reload, pistol whip him, and then shoot him. Right? It's,
oh my god.
That's the kind of kinetic gameplay I'm trying to get across.
Imagine that. This is probably dumb. You have to tell me this is dumb. An action that lets you do, it's a fancy reload that can possibly, very briefly, incapacitate your opponent. And so now you actually want to use your cumbersome weapons to reload in front of them.
I don't think that's a dumb idea. I don't think.
No, Drac, you have to tell me that's a dumb idea. We can't do this, Drac. That has to be a Showman specific one. That has to be a Showman specific one.
That could be Showman specific.
It has
but
to
I have similar ideas for Outlaw. I've had, so one of the things I wanted to do was for Outlaw, I have an idea for one of these maneuvers that's literally just pocket sand. And what it is if you roll disadvantage. if you roll disadvantage to shoot a target, but one of your attack rolls would have hit, you like they have to make a save or be blinded or something like that. But something where like basically to encourage that initial loop of rolling with disadvantage, right? Of like, okay, I've got to shoot into the smoke. So I'm at disadvantage to shoot them, or they're dodging, so I can't shoot them that well. But that's fine. I'm just gonna overwhelm them with bullets, so now they're blinded or something like that, right? That's the vibe. Yeah. But yeah, no, and here's the other thing too, right? Like, first of all, this becomes, and there's with the reload thing. Part of the reason why I really like this, Kitty, is even though reloading is an ancillary thing that oh yeah, performance check. No, it's got to be a performance check because it's cool. It's what you're doing. It's a performance check. Yeah, and they have to make like an athletics or acrobatics contest against you or something. Who knows, Kitty? Maybe even it's a performance check, and the target's AC is the DC that you have to hit because you're literally hitting them with the magazine.
Oh my god, wouldn't that be? Oh my, that's so dumb. That's so dumb. Why are we doing this?
It's so good. It's so cool, though.
It's the target's AC. If you succeed,
you hit them with the magazine.
They're incapacitated.
Yeah, they're incapacitated like
the
until
end of their next turn.
Yeah.
This is so dumb. You are such a bad influence. You're supposed to say this is no.
And the thing is if that's if until the end of their next turn is good, it could just literally be until the start of their next turn. So the whole point is that what you're doing is you're blinding them until the scene comes back. It's like John Wick. He flicks the magazine at the guy. That guy goes off screen. John Wick fights another man for 40 seconds. It really took that guy 40 seconds to figure out how to cope with the fact he got hit in the face with a Glock 19 mag. Like, no, it's, but yeah. Like, it's just until the action comes back to them, and then, John Wick's fighting me now. I'm gonna attack him. Like, that's the vibe. Because until the end of their turn is probably way too good. If we do that, it needs to be like 3 or 4 pizzazz.
I think we can make it. I think 3 or 4 pizzazz being a high cost, because especially imagine pairing this with a cumbersome weapon that you're already going to be spending an action or a bonus action to reload.
Exactly.
And now it incentivizes like, yeah, I'm gonna use my SGA, and no, I don't care. I'm gonna hit you with the goddamn mag.
Yeah, the other thing to consider is you can technically reload non-cumbersome weapons. All weapons have a shot capacity.
Right? I forget.
Well, no. What I'm saying, Kitty, is that literally in our gun mechanic rules, there is shot capacity. It's usually on your turn, you can just reload as an item interaction. I don't even think it's an item interaction. I think it's just a free action.
We don't even track it because we just assume you're going to be. It's one of those mechanics that very early on in D&Destiny I was like, no, I'm not. Yes. No, I don't care. There are a set number of guns that I'm going to care about because their whole shtick is doing a crit to. Yeah, it's how long you. It's how long you get to fire this. That's
exactly. Yep, absolutely. So. But we can also, in case we don't want people, which again, there's 2 ways to design that. It could just be, hey, by the way, this thing that you're doing anyway, we're now going to draw attention to it when you spend pizzazz to action Jackson flick your, reload, or whatever. Or we could also slap on, if we only want it to be, hey, this works with cumbersome weapons, then it could just be when you reload as a part of an action or something like that, right? I'm actually more inclined to just make it more expensive and more ubiquitous, and then we let the players decide how they want to build into that, right? Of like, oh my gosh, I'm a gunslinger who can use cumbersome and unwieldy weapons. This is great because now whenever I reload, I can, somebody within 30 feet of me is going to catch the magazine to the face, and that's going to suck. Or if it's just, hey, I've got a couple of extra pizzazz laying around. I'm going to reload my sidearm and just chuck this magazine at somebody. I think both are fine. I think both are fine.
Performance check is just hilarious, though.
I love it.
Performance check.
It's a performance check. Hey guys, we found a way to make a performance check relevant in your daily tabletop usage. There you go.
I went and I grabbed all the pizzazz options that we currently have, and I have them up here under Tenacious Fighting, and we can start figuring out how we want to.
I just noticed you did that. I'm blind as a bat. Amazing.
Well, I just did it, so you know.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Smooth moves. I have to say that really slowly, otherwise I'm gonna fuck it up. This is when you spend tenacity.
You got it.
To prevent the next 5 feet of your movement from provoking reactions due to movement. And this is not just opportunity attacks, it's any reaction based on movement.
Yes.
It could either be a universal option or possibly an outlaw option. I kind of feel I
like it as a universal option.
I'm inclined to do that. Do the wiggle. These all have showman names, so we can rename them, whatever.
Yeah, we can change them though, right? Because I think for like the universal options, I really think we just need like 3, and I think one of them being related to just a very good universal one. You know, when you attack, when you make an ability roll, you can spend tenacity to do it with advantage. That's fine. Slippery fighting, something that modifies your movement, is super cool. And I even think one of the things that we could do, you can like spend a tenacity to begin aiming. Like 1 tenacity, you are now considered aiming.
How many options do you imagine every gunslinger having by the time they're 20th level?
By the time they're 20th level?
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of pulling this number out of my butt, but kind of not. Did you like the self-censorship there? Did you like that? I almost didn't. But like 7.
Okay, so 3 universal, 3 on your subclass, and
so I'm thinking like 3 levels? Universal. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and maybe 2 and 2 in your archetype. Yeah. That's kind of what I'm thinking. You get 3 universal ones that everybody gets access to. You get 2 when you first jump into the class or jump into your archetype, and then there's 2 like really good ones.
At the higher levels. Okay.
At higher levels, yeah. Or we could do 3, 3, 1, and we make the 1, and this could be super fun. This is kind of crazy, but like one of the ones we could. We'll do 3, 2, and 2 because we can still do it this way. And your higher level one that you get as your capstone. Could be basically another really accessible one, something that will probably enter into your mainstay a lot. But then I also like the idea that there's like a tenacity one that costs 5 for each archetype, and it is closer to this is your special action thing that you can do. You know,
okay. Hang on. I know you're excited about this, but keep in mind we've been talking about playbooks as general options for all Guardians. This is some real behind-the-scenes stuff here, folks. So playbooks, what we've been messing around with is just if you don't know what a playbook is, it's typically, what is it, Powered by the Apocalypse? Or
it's PBTA, yeah.
Yeah, Powered by the Apocalypse. Were they the ones who started it? Because I know Blades in the Dark also uses playbooks, and there's a couple other systems that use it.
I believe Apocalypse World was the absolute OG, and then there were some who grabbed hold of it and really developed it into their own thing, like Blades in the Dark.
Yeah, but basically, it's you pick a character archetype, or you pick a trope. You pick a trope for your character, and if you're thinking about just watching the average Hollywood movie, right? Or if you're watching like serialized TV is actually a way better place to put this from, because if you're watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, right, you have your chosen one. That's Buffy. That's our main character. Then you might have characters like the tech guy who's just really good at all the technology stuff, or you have the arcane person who's super good at the magic stuff. You know, you have the character tropes, you have the roles that you fill in your A team for whatever genre of A team that you're doing, right? And so we've been, instead of doing backgrounds and foundations and stuff like that, like, you're still gonna get your background as Arisen, because that's how you get your ghost. Like, that's gonna stay no matter what. But being able to pick a playbook that adds impressive actions to your arsenal of what you get to do.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, if we took Agent of the Vanguard, or if we took, Vanguard Veteran, or whatever we wanted to call it, and we said you can get the Vanguard playbook. It gives you a couple things, maybe a couple extra proficiencies, some gear, whatever, but it also gives you this action where if you're the last Guardian standing, you can spend your turn just rezzing everyone. That's your whole action. You run around, you res everyone. And considering how powerful that we were thinking of making some of these playbook actions, we were thinking of either toning down the power so that it's a little bit more similar to what you might see in, your apocalypse world kind of settings, where, it might be like an action, you get to do this thing, it's not a standard action, and it's going to help your class, or it's going to help you in a kind of niche scenario, because your class is covering all the basic scenarios. Your playbook would be a little bit more niche. Alternatively, though, we can tie it to a Destiny die or a Destiny coin. It comes from the Star Wars system, which, fun fact, D&Destiny was originally going to be based on Edge of the Empire, which is a Star Wars...
Really? I don't even think I knew that.
Yeah, it was originally going to be based on Edge of the Empire, and then it was kind of like a thing where I was doing all the development on it, very early on. And everything was like, everything I was tacking on 5e already had. So let's just go to 5e, right?
Yeah.
But one of the things that I've always really loved about that system is at the start of every session, you flip a coin between the light side and the dark side. And if it's the dark side, it goes to the GM. If it's a light side, it goes to the players. And at any point, whoever has the coin can flip it in order to do something miraculous. So a player can flip the coin to have a miracle happen that saves the party from certain disaster. Or the GM can flip the coin to have a miracle help the enemy. Or like if we're looking at specifically Star Wars, you might flip the coin to have Darth Vader show up, right? Something like that. But if we bring that into the playbooks and we tie that into the playbooks, we give you these amazing actions, but it's tied to that coin. And it's that coin flip at the start of the session. It's either the light or the darkness. If it's the darkness, it goes to the GM. And the GM, we can give them tools for monster playbooks based on faction. And GMs can make their own playbooks for whatever, homebrew they want to do. It's, it's up to them.
Right.
And if it goes to the player, then they can flip the coin for their playbook actions. And I bring all of this up to go back to Gunslinger, because I went off on a goddamn tangent.
No, you're fine.
Because if we want to do an amazing action that's going to cost 5 pizzazz, is that going to step on the toes of this potential playbook system that we were thinking of adding to the game?
I mean, it could. It could, right? And maybe it's something that, maybe it's something that we just earmark for the playbooks. We could absolutely do that. I do, as somebody who back in D1, just loved Chain of Woe, loved the playstyle of Chain of Woe. I would like something flashy to happen if we could somehow, with the tenacity fighting, for sharpshooter, play into Chain of Woe, right? Of where it's,
Okay,
you're
the
making
multiple hits and everything.
Multiple hits, builds up to a crescendo. I think it would be more exciting, because obviously the mechanism there was, if you kept your Chain of Woe going, you got your abilities back faster and, did a little more damage, I think. I don't quite remember all of it. But it would be really interesting if we could give something like that for sharpshooter, where it is like, hit a target, and then, you either, maybe you just get a ton of pizzazz when you complete a Chain of Woe, so you can do all your cool stuff. Or maybe when your Chain of Woe is finished, you can shoot something and it does a bunch of damage, or you can spend a pizzazz action for free if you're at max Chain of Woe. I don't know, something like that. But I want to play into somewhere in the Gunslinger. If it's not across the board for each subclass, that's totally fine. But I do think that is a fantasy, it's a gameplay mechanism that we could lean into, and that I think is very suited to the Gunslinger of hit a shot, big effect, right? Of that tempo. and I think that's definitely sharpshooter. It's definitely sharpshooter at least. And so I was trying. The early thought was we could simulate that with the tenacity, right? Of like, I do a thing, I build up a ton of tenacity, and then I use this very expensive tenacity action that lets me, ricochet my shot off of 3 people at once, or something like that, right?
Okay.
But,
Okay.
but, I hear you. In as much as maybe not all 3 of them need to have something like that, and we can give them all their own unique capstones, which I think is totally fine. And yeah, I think that will also work out just fine. And then maybe we just earmark one of those types of effects for sharpshooter to represent Chain of Woe, or a similar mechanism. And then the other 2 can just do other things, which I think could even fit their identities a little bit better.
Okay, so real quick about Outlaw. If you want it, so how much tenacity do you imagine players being able to accumulate on each of their turns, like on average?
I mean, the not helpful answer is as much as they want to spend. But
how much can they earn on
accumulate
a turn?
Their maximum? I think keeping the current pizzazz maximum of 1 plus your charisma modifier is very important. It's your willpower and it's your performative skill, or the will to survive. All that kind of stuff is the measure of how much you can hold at one point in time. You got to lean into your class skill in order, your class stat modifier to your power modifier to be good at this, to excel at this.
All right then, because we also have to keep in mind that, especially when you're dealing with TTRPG combat and stuff like that, typically your average combat's going to be done in about 2 rounds, and this is by design, because a single round's going to take you like 20 minutes to get through, and especially in D&Destiny with the amount of creatures that are on the board in an average combat, it might take you like 30 minutes to get through 1 round. Spending an hour on 1 combat that's fine. In my perfect world, you would spend less than 20 minutes on an average combat. But
yeah, good luck.
I know. Yeah, just the nature of TTRPGs. It's you're not going to get that.
It takes 10 minutes just to roll the dice.
It takes 10 minutes to roll the dice, and don't even get me started on some of these character builds who take it's like going up against a goddamn Sylveon Giratina deck where you're just like, oh my god, it's gonna take you a minute just to finish drawing all the cards.
I'm gonna go make a sandwich.
I'm gonna go make a sandwich while you take your turn.
Exactly.
And so there's a certain amount of it that we can't control. And this is why when GMs are like, the combat's done in 1 round, and it's like, yes, good. How long did that round take?
I want to make sure that these cool features, these awesome things you get to do in the middle of combat, you as the player control how frequently you can do those. Right?
Yes, that has been huge for us. Exactly.
It's why there's so many different ways to put gas into the engine. You start with a little bit in the tank, and then most things you're going to be doing in a combat are going to give you that tenacity. And part of that is coming from that design philosophy of combats go quick, right? If we were going to play, if we could get through an 8-round combat in an hour, then perhaps we would design the game differently to generate your tenacity slower. Mm-hmm. But the point is, you're really only going to have 2, maybe 3 rounds in your typical combat, probably 4 or 5 in a boss fight. Maybe more in a boss fight, depending on the nature of the boss you're waves. Fighting.
Like if you're in a raid, I can expect, your final encounter is going to be 3 hours.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. But if you've only got 2 rounds in each individual combat to showcase how cool your Blorbo is, we want to make sure that you can put your foot to the pedal, brick on the pedal, to get your engine going for your character. So yeah, 3 ways to generate tenacity out of the gate. Yeah, that's the idea. So that way you can generate your tenacity and do as many of these cool things that your character can do. And giving you a wide, varied bag that develops with your character as they grow means that you get to diversify your character's portfolio, and your character is constantly doing new stuff. So literally moving the gunslinger away from what the marshals in 5e do, which is, I guess I'm going to take the attack action on my turn, and I'm going to swing twice, then 3 times, and then, wow, at the highest levels, I can do it 4 times.
I want them designed in a way that you don't have to sit here and be like, well, I used up these resources, and now to get the most out of playing my class, I have to figure out a way to take a rest. And
right.
it's boring. Genuinely, it's boring. And we're playing Destiny. You want to go on your strikes, you want to go on your patrols, and we do have some things that are going to be short rest and long rest, but in my mind, those things are ways to manipulate the averages or the statistical expectations of your dice. They are, when you score a critical miss, you can re-roll it once per long rest. And it's stuff like that it's universal. It makes you go, no, I cannot afford to miss. I have this, once per long rest, I can be like, I can't afford to miss. I'm going to use this. But your class, your gameplay, you should be doing that every fight you get into. Every single one.
Yeah. I do not want the exact design philosophy that I think we're trying to lean away from. And you said it really well there, of like, yeah, I don't want the gunslinger to look down at their gun and go, I can only shoot you really cool 6 times before I have to take a really big sleep. That's not cool. That also doesn't make any gosh darn sense. It just doesn't make any sense.
It really doesn't. You're a gunslinger. You already took a big sleep. You died.
Exactly. So now you get superpowers because the Traveler took pity on you about your big sleep. So yeah, no, 1,000,000%. And so giving players, like, so if you're going like, whoa, you've like tripled the ways that gunslingers can get this currency. Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, I want them to have the points because I want to see. I want them to have the points
because I want them to use the points, and I want them.
Here's the other thing.
Oh, yep.
When we move away from the design of points, the extra bonus points that you generate equals damage, I can give you as many of those as you want to have. You could be that stupid stock photo of the guy juggling limes or lemons or whatever.
Oh yeah, I can't hold all of these. Yeah,
I can't hold all of these tenacity points. Yeah, okay. That's because none of them, they might translate to you more consistently doing damage. But hey, real talk, guys, the encounters are balanced assuming you hit. Because you're just because you're gonna hit. Have you seen what the modifiers in mid to high tier 5e games look like? You're gonna hit.
We have players. They're not even in tier 4 gameplay yet. They're not 17. They're not 17th level or higher, and they already have like plus 17 to hit. And you know what? That's the point. That's the point. We're playing Destiny.
The problem with big modifiers comes when they are packaged with unbalanceable, untenable damage. Which is where 1E Gunslinger's design and why it was, and is why it's moving towards 2E. And again, everything's getting reconfigured to take that into account, right? We don't have to we want the encounters to go quickly, right? Which means not having monsters that have 300 effective hit points on the battlefield, because we have to balance in accordance with gunslingers or void locks. You're on my list.
They kind of are. What was the point of us doing this?
Gunslinger, I think.
Gunslinger, right? Oh my god, that's right. We were talking about Gunslinger.
We got a little bit of work.
We got a little bit of work done there, and we got.
But it did open up the floor for us to kind of talk about what the actual pain point, because I know that can be a disconnect in the community, right? And it's part of the reason why I really like doing these and having these conversations that are public facing, and why in our community too, you'll see me chatting with people all the time about the design philosophy of what we're doing, right? Because when these changes can happen like facelessly, a lot of the times it does just feel like it's like what happens in your competitive game of choice, right? Where they like, oh, they nerfed my favorite character. Why would you hate my fun? And it's like, nah, like it's not that we hate. It's not that we hate your fun. It's that we value everyone's fun. We actually wrote your fun. Your original fun was something we made. So like and that's not an elitist take. Like we looked at that and thought this would be really fun and engaging to design. And our design and dev experience is growing, and the kind of space that we're developing is changing, and it's allowing us to do different things. And so we're moving in that direction. And that's really what it is. So a lot of this is believe me, it's a lot of deleting of our own work, right? Easier for me because I didn't write half of this, so I'm just coming in like
a lot easier for you. You're starting to feel it a little bit with the darkness classes now that you're getting feedback on them, and you're starting to realize, okay, maybe that's not working the way that I thought it was going to work, or that's not having the effect I thought it would. And that's just part of the process. And what you do is all the stuff that you delete, you take it and you put it in your pocket for later. You'll find a way to put it later. You'll find something absolutely. You can do with it.
No, I'll get spiteful and I'll put those mechanics on an enemy, and then I'll show the players just how cool those mechanics are when I'm styling on them.
No
it's
joke.
Totally
that's what we do. That's that is an actual tactic we have when we have players who are like, I don't see how this could ever be useful. We just give it to an NPC and we let the NPC use it, and then they're like, oh, okay. Because sometimes you got to show the horse how to drink water.
Yeah.
And then they will.
I can't make them drink water, but I can show them why they feel dehydrated.
Right, yeah,
exactly.
We gotta kind of wrap this up here. But, we want to just completely redo the Gunslinger class. And we want to focus around this sort of tenacious fighting, these tenacious actions, earning tenacity. Just a couple questions I'd love for you to think about for next time, which is, if you're basically always supposed to have tenacity, why is it costing anything? Why aren't we just giving these as options for them to do? Like, once on your turn, you can pick one of these actions and do them.
Okay. That's actually a good question.
Because if they're always supposed to have the tenacity and they're always supposed to be able to do things with the tenacity, why are we tracking it? And if there is a reason why we're tracking it, then we need to make sure that we are incorporating that into our design a lot stronger than we are right now. But right now,
My initial response to that question is because I would like there to be variable costs in the tenacity actions, and so if we're gonna value them differently, then we need to have a meta currency that's utilized in order to show why that's valued, right? I would like for some of them to be more impactful. The common ones should still be useful, but they're meant to be like, oh, I just need to do this real quick, right? And then you've got your really flashy ones like the showman one that I want to keep in, either as a core class feature or a pizzazz action where, hey, when you cast a power, you can spend 2 pizzazz to do it as a bonus action instead, right? Or something like that, right? Whatever the exact language of that one is. So, but that needs to be expensive and powerful. So that's my core reaction, but I'll do some more thinking on it.
Yeah, and it's always really important to have those sort of questions for ourselves, because we need to make sure that if we're going to make the players track something, it's for a good reason, because that adds time, that adds paperwork, that adds overhead to the game, and I want players playing the game. The less time they spend looking at their character sheet, the better off they are, in my opinion. There's a certain amount of it that you just can't get away from, because again, we're doing the combat. We like the combat. The combat is fun. It's finding those places wherever we can to reduce that overhead, though. Okay.
To keep them engaged with what's happening at the table as opposed to what's on their character sheet.
Yeah. To keep them engaged with the story, to keep them engaged with the narrative. Okay, but what do we want to send them off with? What's our closing comment we want to have for this?
Ooh, what? Oh man, I think I almost just want to say trust the process, but that feels a little maybe elitist to say, which I don't want to come across as.
I think a really good closing comment might be something along the lines of like, look, players, we hear you. I promise we hear you. There's just only so many hours in a day, and we have so much we have to do. Please, I'm begging you. Can you please just a little? I'm sorry. You don't have to come in. You don't have to come in as this hard, because some of the feedback has been that hard.
And too, some of that's also like I can really speak to experience with this as somebody who's like jumping into this, right? Like, there's a lot to catch up on, and like there's a lot to keep track of, right? You know, we're running the new light event and working on the edits and working on generating new content all the time. So just know there's cool stuff coming down the pipe all the time. It just might not be the facet that you're immediately looking at, and that's okay, right? There's only so many of us, and there's only so many hours in the day, but we're getting to it, I promise. And do keep giving us your feedback. Don't keep engaging with the material that we're generating. It is very, very helpful. Even the ones that do hit really hard in the face, they're helpful.
They are, and it's definitely an issue of like, this is not me saying don't give us feedback. By all means, please do. Please. Just maybe don't punch me in the face when you do it.
If you can think before you type, do. But also, at the same time, the passion is also very helpful, because your emotive reaction to the mechanics is relevant. So I also don't want people to over-editorialize their feedback. if a mechanic just feels bad to you, tell me it feels bad. Like, that's okay. That is okay. Don't tell me I'm a bad person for writing it. But you know, if a mechanic just feels bad, like you might go like, that's so opinion based. It's like, yeah, this is art. It's very opinion based. Like this is more art than it is science. So
we can sit here
talk
and
numbers and exactly.
We can sit here. We could put a spreadsheet together for all of this all day, every day. But how it feels and how it plays and the emotional response you have as a player. Anyways, we can't get too much on this.
We can't keep going.
We can't do a soapbox on this, okay?
Yeah,
all right, true. We're good. I think we're just gonna stop there. Yeah, we're done.